Hello, and welcome to another episode of Botanical Rebellion. We are going to discuss navigating genuine connections, and I'm talking specific to friendships. We will go over green flags and the red flags too. Specifically chose this topic because in the last 4 years or so, I've been going to therapy, and you learn a lot during that process, and my life has drastically changed in those last 4 years. I've essentially started my whole ass life over, and that includes friendships too, because as I was going to therapy, I started to learn a lot about myself and my own part in it too. I'm no angel, none of us are, so let's start with that, okay? Like, we have to be accountable for our own actions and how we can do better because the goal is to evolve, right? We want to evolve as human beings and we want to elevate and be better and grow, right? If not, then I think you're on the wrong podcast. Anyway, that was my goal, and I wanted peace. I was craving peace. All I knew was chaos, and therapy, that was a start. And it's a great start. I definitely recommend checking it out. I honestly wish everybody had to have a therapist. I think it's a great tool. It had a negative stigma. I'm glad that it's finally becoming cool because it really fucking is. It's fucking cool. It's hot. Go to therapy. I went to therapy and I started to see the patterns in the people that I chose and selected to be in my life or allowed in my life or gave access to and so on. It's important to start seeing those kind of patterns in your life so you can really dissect it and change it if that's what you're looking for. If things are going great, then, maybe skip along. But if you're like me 4 years ago and you just craved something different and it just wasn't sitting right anymore, like you wanted to grow and break out from those old patterns, really the only way to do that is to look at yourself, look at your own shit and acknowledge it, become aware and navigate that. And having a professional is great. I've kind of had built some resentment at that time because I felt like my friends weren't really there for me. And then I realized that I had a lot of heavy shit and I was actually putting too much on them for shit that they had no idea how to navigate because they hadn't gone through it themselves. That's kind of where I was like, I think I need a professional. Like, I'm going to pay someone to deal with this heavy shit because it's a lot for my friends. It's a lot to ask, especially if they hadn't gone through the heavy shit that I had gone through. My expectations were maybe a little too high. I think it's important to get support from your friends, but I think it wasn't working, right? So I started seeing a therapist, and at that time I realized a lot of my relationships were a little fucked. I had to do a lot of work on myself, and I really had to learn how to set boundaries because I was kind of a doormat and I didn't even have boundaries, guys. Like, it was bad. I've come a long way. When you have to start over and relationships from your life dissolve and you're in a place of isolation and healing, which is where I was, I realized I needed to make friendship list, like a deal breaker list, which I highly recommend. I recommend it for all relationships, whether if you're looking for your soulmate or maybe even if you think you're with your soulmate, and just making sure all of those things are crossed off on your checklist. But I digress. Let's not go too deep into the relationship stuff. We're focusing on friendships right now, okay? So I made this list. I was thinking, what kind of friendships do I want? Because some of the friendships I had in the past there's a lot of dependency there, and I think I was asked of too much, and maybe I asked of too much too. I wanted to have friendships where we dealt with our own shit and we pushed each other to grow and we could communicate. And I really had to sit down and think, like, what is it I'm looking for? You also have to realize, what are your deal breakers? I knew for me, one of my biggest deal breakers, I'll say my top two, is you need to be able to fucking communicate. If you can't communicate, I can't read your mind. I can't do the subtle hints. I've had a lot of friendships in the past where these little sparks and flickers of fire happen and these little issues, but they're not ever mentioned. And all of a sudden the whole thing burns down because, oh, well, all of this, and this. And I'm like blindsided, wondering what I did wrong because I had asked and had check-ins and the communication wasn't there. So if you're too afraid to communicate, if you're a people pleaser, that's one thing you really want to start working on and fixing, is to not be a people pleaser. we can't be doing that. That shit's got to go. And I was a big people pleaser myself. So again, this comes from personal experience and me going through the healing process. I'm not in any way pointing fingers of, other people being people pleasers. I'm talking about myself too. So when you have people pleasers, you put them together, you don't have any authenticity there if you think about it, because it's just like an echo chamber of mirroring each other, and it's fake, and it doesn't make any sense if you really break it down. That's where it gets kind of complicated. And when you have some friendships that lack that importance of communication, where everything's fine and you don't say like, hey, you know what, when you said this, it bothered me. When you did this, it bothered me. This is where the boundaries come in. If you're not setting those boundaries and you're not telling people, critiquing them, giving them feedback and checking in, shit's gonna go bad. It is so important to have those check-ins and to communicate. So therefore, one of my number one things was, you got to communicate. You can't be avoiding confrontation and afraid to talk. Like, there has to be a safe space, and you have to communicate. I need real, I need authentic, I need to understand. Like, no one needs to be overthinking. You just say what you feel. So anyway, yeah, we're going to just go ahead and say that's my number one, is that. And a close number one, I can't even say number two, like they're both my number ones, is accountability. Okay, you have to have accountability, because you can just circle the drain all fucking day long with someone who doesn't have accountability. That victim mentality mindset bullshit is impossible to work through anything with. And again, I've been there myself. I've been the victim. I've done that myself. I'm not perfect. But when I've seen it in other people, especially, was when I was able to heal that within myself, because I was like, oh, fuck no, I don't like this. And that really made me reflect and dig deep and look within myself, because that had to go. Living the victim mentality mindset is tricky, because we are fucking victims. We've gone through some shit. Okay. But at the same time, so is everybody, and everybody's got their own level of trauma, and it's not a pissing contest. And we're adults now. It's up to us to take responsibility and navigate it. It can't be a crutch. It can't be a forever excuse. We want to grow. We want to heal, right? We got to move through it. The problem with victim mentality is the lack of accountability is there when it comes to your own bullshit. Oh, well, I did this because I was triggered. We got to learn how to work through these triggers. It can be a collaborative effort when you're in a relationship. Communicate. Oh, hey, those things go together. When it becomes a pointing, blame shift, I'm the victim, no accountability, you're just not going to win. Nobody's going to win. Because at the end of the day, it's not about winning any arguments or fights or who's right, who's wrong. It's about solving the fucking problem and moving through it and moving forward and growing. And that creates stronger connections. Let's start from the beginning. I got a little excited there. Let's start with the basic science of genuine connections. Friendship is not rocket science, but it's not exactly a walk in the park either, right? Think of it as a carefully crafted social experiment where you're both scientists and you get to test the subject. I'm going to break down the art and slight science of building connections so that it doesn't make you want to change your phone number. We'll start with self-awareness checkpoint. This is friendship potential scanning. This is also your personal growth reality check and your internal operating system. Can you look in the mirror and actually recognize the person staring back? Are you willing to admit if you're the problem? Because spoiler alert, yeah, sometimes you are, okay? You gotta just admit that and come to terms with it. You may have heard a lot about the attachment styles, and it's not just a therapy buzzword. It's actually pretty helpful with compatibility mapping, and especially for the emotionally curious. 4 attachment styles. This theory was originally developed by John Bowlby. I think that's how you say it. I'm going to forever just butcher names on this show. All right. So that he suggests that the way we form emotional bonds with each other, particularly during childhood, influences how we behave in relationships throughout life. There are 4 primary attachment styles. Secure attachment style. This is the creme de la creme. This is what we want. This is the goal. And some people are already there, fucking lucky. And some of us, like me, we have to work really hard to get there. So what is secure attachment? The people with secure attachment style generally feel comfortable with intimacy. They can balance closeness with independence. They tend to have positive views of themselves and others. That must be so nice. I'm almost there, guys. I'm getting there. Okay, I'm getting there. Anxious attachment. Individuals with anxious attachment style often crave closeness and reassurance, but they can become overly dependent on their partners for validation. Oof, I've been there. This is where you constantly seek their validation and you kind of emotionally monitor them. It's annoying and it sucks and it's a personal hell and for everybody involved, really. But they tend to worry about rejection and abandonment. Now, if your partner or friend or whoever has the anxious attachment, it's really sweet and kind of you to give them reassurance. And they're anxious, they have anxiety, they want your presence and reassurance. That's usually helpful, but again, it's important for them also to work on that attachment so that it isn't that dependency. Now we have avoidant attachment. Ooh, the anxious and the avoidance, they love each other. They are like magnets. It's a romance novel, but for some reason it's true. The anxious and the avoidance, they love each other. People with avoidant attachment style value their independence and they often distance themselves emotionally from others. Might struggle with intimacy and have difficulty relying on others. This one sounds cool, right? Independent. Yeah. Okay. I know what you're thinking, but this is tough because that wall is fucking there and it's felt. And especially if you're the anxious attached person and you love an avoidant, there's a fucking wall there. The wall is there and we just want to break through it and climb it because they're not opening up. Lots of love sent to everybody. Oh my God. Life is just so hard. However, it is especially hard for the fearful avoidant. This is also known as the disorganized attachment. This one's tough. Oh my God. So I'm sharing these because we want to have compassion and understand people and where their mindsets are. The fearful avoidant is kind of like a combination of anxious and avoidant. This style, it's combining both. It's going to give conflicting feelings about relationships. You're going to desire closeness, but fear rejection and abandonment. So therefore you're going to avoid. It's a mess. It's a roller coaster. It's really fucking hard. Again, this is why therapy is important because you can work through this. In the past, I especially could relate to this attachment style because I was anxious and I was also avoidant. Having a little more of an understanding about the attachment styles can be really helpful because when you understand your attachment style and the person in the hot seat, whether it's a friend or relationship you're in, then you can better understand how to navigate it and work together, at least especially if you can communicate and have accountability and be open because, like I said, those top number one important things, then you can actually work through this mess. Next, I'm going to talk about confirmation bias because there's a connection, and this has been very helpful for me. Confirmation bias is a cognitive bias that refers to the tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs. Attachment styles can influence the way we experience confirmation bias in relationships and social interactions. I was discussing the anxious attachment earlier, and how confirmation bias works with that is that individuals with anxious attachment may be more likely to look for signs that their partner is distancing themselves or not valuing them, which reinforces their fears of abandonment. Holy shit. That was really important for me to learn because being the anxious attachment person that I would likely look for those signs and believe the narrative. It's important to communicate again and clarify because you might just be interpreting neutral or ambiguous behaviors as negative or rejecting because it's confirming and feeding your anxiety about the relationship. Those with avoidant attachment might selectively focus on evidence that supports their need for independence and emotional distance. They might downplay signs of affection or intimacy because they're interpreting closeness as a threat to their autonomy. This is going to lead to behaviors that reinforce their avoidance or emotional intimacy. Let's start with avoiding confirmation bias. This essentially means that we're actively challenging our own beliefs instead of just seeking information that confirms what we already think. This looks like deliberately seeking out perspectives that disagree with your current view, challenging your current view, being willing to ask yourself what evidence might prove me wrong. being willing to change your mind when presented with compelling information, and recognizing that your initial opinion isn't always the correct one. You want to evolve. You don't want to be the same person you were 20 years ago. Now, this is a delicious feature, which is intellectual humility. This is acknowledging that you don't know everything and being comfortable saying, I'm not sure, or I could be wrong. This is valuing learning over being right and respecting others' expertise and experiences. Also seeing your knowledge as a work in progress and not a finished product, because the whole fucking journey of life is the lesson. That is the journey. We're not masters until we're dead. Curiosity that killed the echo chamber and not the cat. This point emphasizes breaking out of the comfortable and actively seeking information and perspectives different from your own. I think it's always great to challenge yourself to talk to somebody new, talk to an elder, and learn about life that you don't know, and cultures and places and music and experiences. You have to expand your mind. Engage with people who think differently. Treat your current understanding as a starting point and not a final destination. The overall point is about being open and flexible, and not about abandoning your beliefs, but about being willing to examine them critically, learn continuously, and to remain adaptable in your thinking. Imagine being a mental explorer, always curious and never completely settled, constantly updating your mental map of the world based on new information and perspectives. Let's talk about not being a conversational disaster. The art of actually listening. It's so important because a lot of people aren't actually listening. They're thinking about what they want to say next. They're thinking about their day. We can be a little egotistical and self-centered naturally, so it's important to be mindful and to set that shit aside and actively listen. I think in the world we live in nowadays, genuine curiosity, it's fucking hot. It is hot green. It is fucking neon green, on fire, to be curious and interested, because people are so distracted and everything is just instant gratification. That's where it's great to have that element of curiosity. I think conflict resolution is something that's very important for everybody to get that shit figured out, because disagreements are not meant to be gladiator battles. And emotional regulation, that is your superpower. If you can't keep your emotions regulated, also goes back to the victim mentality, and you're putting that on other people, it's just not fair. It's not fair. And when I say emotional regulation, I'm talking about all of the emotions. We're talking the spectrum of emotions, and we're not just talking about someone crying. We're also talking about that anger outburst. That is also emotional regulation. I have been someone to fly off the handle in the past, so it was really important and crucial for me in my life to learn how to not go there. Again, it's not a battlefield. You're not going to resolve things in a healthy way if your emotions are not being regulated. Think about a surgeon in the operating room. If their emotions are not regulated, do you want them holding the scalpel? Probably not, right? So think of it similar to that. You want to be cool, calm, and collected. That is how you're going to get through anything. The true way to resolve a conflict or navigate a conflict is understanding. That is winning. That is how you fucking win. It isn't about being right or right. Right or right. Oh my God. It isn't about being right or wrong. It is about understanding. At the end of the fucking day, all anybody wants is to feel heard, seen, and understood. Really, it's that simple. Now we're going to go into love bombing. Woo! We love bombing. I love to be love bombed. Tell me I'm a princess, I'm a goddess, you love me. Don't we all love it? But at the end of the day, like, you're my best friend on week 2. It's just not real. It's not realistic. That too good to be true. It's just not real. It's actually a red flag. Because it takes time to really get to know someone, and it takes time to also learn how they deal with conflict and to learn how they deal with stress. I've probably been a love bomber too because I get really excited and want to ooze the positivity. I've been there too. I've been on both sides. I've definitely gotten excited before where I felt like, oh my God, I've met my best friend. This person's amazing and I'm so excited. You haven't really truly gotten to know each other. And then where that explosion and it all burns up is because one day boundaries get crossed or there's not a healthy communication foundation that's set, and then it all blows up. The slow burn is the way to go because you really want to get to know someone. Some protective strategies for that are to maintain your existing support network, take time to develop friendships slowly, and pay attention to consistent behavior over time. Trust your instincts. You want to maintain clear personal boundaries and be wary of friends who try to fast track intimacy because, again, it takes connection. You build these connections gradually with mutual respect and consistent behavior. You want organic growth. Friendships that feel like a whirlwind and just really fast and instant and too good to be true. It is. It's too good to be true. Steady, reliable partnerships develop naturally over time. They can't be forced, and when things light up so quick and fast, they burn down really quick and fast too. So here's what you do. Keep it real. You don't have to be a jerk. You're just communicating. Clarity is sexy. Passive-aggressive is not. You want to be honest, and you also want to have some empathy, some compassion, but not too much, okay? Because again, it's also important for people to work through their own bullshit. We want to stay away from the codependency, right? As far as relationship maintenance goes with these friendships, you want to also recognize that your energy is limited and not everyone has to have access to you. This is also where the boundaries are important because not every connection has to be forever as well. Friendships don't need to be like BFF for life, wear friendship necklaces. It doesn't have to be like that. It's actually funny because I have a friendship tattoo with someone that was in my life for so long and now we're not friends. So it's a good reminder that the friendships don't necessarily have to be forever because we do evolve and sometimes we evolve into different humans that don't align with each other anymore, and then you go on different paths and live your best life. That's okay. I think in the past, it felt like you had to force connections when they didn't really make sense or fit anymore. And back to your energy being a limited resource, it's true too. I feel like if you're having to text someone every single day and make time for them nonstop, it's just not realistic. There are seasons for friendships, or maybe there's a time in your life where you have a lot more time and you can spend a lot more time together. That's great. But we're adults and we have careers and we have our health and family and our other relationships, and it's just not realistic. I say this only because in the past, not having those boundaries, I felt like I had to always be accessible or I was a shitty friend. And I can sometimes go off the radar because I do deal with depression. I also have health issues. So sometimes I go quiet. It's usually because I just don't have the capacity for anything else. Like I need to rest, I'm healing, I'm going through stuff, or I'm focusing on family or whatever. And that's okay. But I've had the pressure throughout my life of getting random messages from friends that thought I hated them or was upset with them because they hadn't heard from me when really I was just like going through a lot of shit. And that's all. So I think it's important to check in and not make assumptions. If someone needs to have access to you all the time, that's not healthy. That's going on to that codependency realm. I think another helpful thing to do is just like a personal values audit and also your social circle health check. I think it's helpful to occasionally check in and think, is my social circle healthy? Are you hanging out with people that are not evolving and not growing, or maybe they're really negative? Are they energy vampires? Your personal values audit. Are you not taking the best care of yourself and it's affecting your stress management and your mood? Do your check-ins, check in with yourself, check in with your people, reevaluate your life here and there and see where you can improve. Life requires the art of being adaptive, like an ocean, being powerful yet pliable, strong yet surrendering. Imagine yourself as a skilled navigator, not fighting the currents, but learning to read the rhythms. Your resilience lives in your ability to absorb impact, reshape your trajectory, and continue moving forward with grace, curiosity, and unbreakable internal compass. You are not defined by your challenges that come, but how creatively and courageously you navigate them. Remember, you hold the paintbrush, you get to create the life of your dreams. Friendship is not about perfection, it's about carefully crafting a social experiment where vulnerability meets strength and you're constantly learning, adapting, and growing. Keep it fun and keep it real.